This is Use Your Weapon, and I am the Epiphanist. And today's show is about mothers. The universal symbol of a mother is what? What does that look like? What does that look like to you? So we're going to talk about that today. I'm going to cut this off. And I'm going to start recording on this device too, so give me 1 second. I hate to reach over myself. Should have this done before. Don't do this. That's better. Whew. I hope I'm good at editing. So today I'm talking about mothers, the universal symbol of a mother. I know, so I am finding out a lot of people have mama issues and daddy issues, but some people have both. And so as I go along my journey, and I this journey again is I'm in a living room today, one of my properties, but my trade is also property manager. So I'm a property manager at the 25th Dynasty. It is my company. I have been a property manager in the property management industry for what I consider my entire life. So it's been my ministry, and it continues to be. So if you have any property management needs, any properties that you need filled, any vacancies that you need proper tenants for, please consider the 25th Dynasty. We'd love to fly with you. So with that being said, on this forum, I call this Use Your Weapon. This is the forum that I call myself the Epiphanist on. And the Epiphanist meaning that I have a lot of epiphanies. I am a child abuse survivor, and what I believe my child abuse encompassed was root work. And root work, you will find that in a lot of your, in your rituals, because there are rituals, there are certain things that are done on purpose to continue certain spells, to continue certain behaviors. So again, this story today is about mama, your mother. So because a lot of us are who we are because of who we come from, and who they are and who they are not, and if they are present, if they're not present, all of that plays a part in mother, and so as I sit in the seat of mother now, because when you sit in the seat as a child, you're just along for the ride, really. Now, whatever that ride looks like, nevertheless and often so, you're along for it. You're just on the train as a child, and you don't get control of your train until you get control of your consciousness. So you got to understand that if you don't have control of your consciousness, something does, and someone does. So getting control of you is the proper way to find spirit. When you move away from religion, finding relevant questions and finding who you are is relevant to your journey. So the first thing that you do is start from your beginnings, and your beginnings is mother. So as I address the universal symbol of mother, You know, there's a universal, when I say the word mother, outside of your mother coming into your picture, in your consciousness, but just the symbol of a mother. What does that look like? What does that pattern in your head looks like? I remember, I can tell you, for example, I remember the pattern looking to me, and it still is a very good pattern. Claire Huxtable on the Huxtables. Miss Felicia Rashad. Even now, she is stunning. Now, beauty doesn't qualify as mother, but beauty is one of the traits of mother. Yeah. Or should be one of the traits of mother. So I can tell you that the pattern that I looked for, the universal pattern when I was a child, is my consciousness was stuck on Claire Huxtable. If somebody said, your universal symbol of my mother, no, it wouldn't be my mother, but it would be Claire Huxtable. If I had to give the symbol of a mother, if we were watching The Perfect Mother on television. And that's exactly what she was. She was the perfect mother on television. So there you have it. So when I say, you know, go into your collective consciousness and think about what the word mother means for you. What's that pattern looks like? You know, outside of your mother, what does it look like? So then we have the universal. That universal symbol has to have some general qualities. Like generally, the universal symbol of mother is gonna be overall female. Whatever your pattern, whatever your symbol, whatever that looks like in your head, it is a female energy because of its name, its mother. It's female. It's universally female. So that's one trait of mother, one characteristic of, when I say the word mother, what pops into your head? What type symbol pops into your head? What's the pattern look like? The pattern has to look feminine. Now, more importantly than it looking feminine, let's go back to the root of it, because remember I told you that my abuse involved root work. So when you look at your pattern and your behavior of your mother, and you look at your mother, there's a pattern. There's a collective consciousness that you and your mother have. Now, I didn't ask you what your universal symbol of mother looks like. That was the initial question. You know, when you think of the universal symbol of mother, what does that pattern look like? But there is a actual pattern that you and your mother have. Because the law of one says that if one has the pattern, you have the pattern. Now, everything has balance. Come back to that. And I say that to say, we'll come back to that. Everything has balance. So when you think of that universal consciousness, it must be universally female. No doubt about it. Facts. Now, when you think of the next universal symbol of female or mother, it must be melanated. It must be universally melanated, because of one you can get many. So that universal factor that you must start on is the feminine symbol of mother. It must be feminine, and it must be melanin. It must be a melanated image. And really, you can look up in the sky, you can look around, everything has melanin. with the exception of some. But 90% of the omniverse has melanin. So everything is melanated. So these are facts. When you think of the universal word mother, the word universally, if you close your eyes and you give it a pattern, because everything on this sphere or this circle, I call it a sacred circle, which is the planet Earth, everything has meaning. Meaning that everything, it reproduces itself, so it must have a pattern. So everyone everywhere will see mother as she really is. Because when you start to think about, when you start to break down falsities, because what this show is about, I actually wrote a blog, and my blog can be seen on or uploaded on the website, the25thdynasty.com. But the blog is about mother, you know. My journey in my life, in the way that my life went, is because of the positions that my mother put me in. And that's the way everyone's life is. Whether your mother dropped you off at a foster care home, or whether she changed your name or did whatever your mother did, you're in the position you're in because of that. Now, until you started to take your own consciousness into your own hands, then that's when you change your position, that's when you change your perspective. However, until that day, until that time comes, until your awakening, now, so I thought to myself, I thought I'd start to think more about just mother. What is the pattern that you get from your mother? Now, those things are things that you have to start to determine. Okay, so we come into this world, we need a mother. Conscious or unconscious, we come into this world and we need a mother. Conscious or unconscious, meaning that if you have a conscious baby, meaning you have a live birth, that live baby needs a mother. Now, whether you have an unconscious child, whether you don't have a live birth, that child still needs a mother. These are facts. So, conscious or unconsciously, we come into this world and we need one. We can't actually get here without one. These are facts. So as we grow and we develop from the infant to the baby, to the baby, to the toddler, to the toddler, to the child, to the child, to the gender of purpose. Yeah. And so on and so forth. So this is just on my blog, and I'm just going over it, and I just thought I'd share it because it was relative to my journey. And I thought it might be relative to a lot of people's journey because I've noticed that a lot of people have mama issues. Not just me. And I didn't know it. We don't even talk about it. Just like we don't talk about trauma. Just like we don't talk about... we don't talk about nothing. We've been shucking and jiving for white folks so long that we don't talk about nothing no more. And the only reason why I say that is because you have to go back to where the behavior came from. The behavior of just doing things and then acting like we don't, and I call it the Uncle Tom syndrome. You gotta watch Tom, beat your husband and you can't say anything. You still gotta, hell, Tom might come in the room and rape you, or hell, rape your husband. You gotta act like you don't see it, you don't hear it, you don't know. And so a lot of our mothers and a lot of our fathers are still behaving this way. That's another story for another day. But we're talking about the behavior of not dealing with trauma. We've been shucking and jiving for so long. I think Nipsey Hussle said it best. We have to start considering the way that we take disrespect. How we start answering to that. That's another story for another day. However, within our homes, we have to start unveiling ourselves, unveiling the truth. So I know that many daughters are raised with the myth of their mother. Like, I can honestly say that I raised my daughter, but she doesn't really know me because I didn't know me. She doesn't know Tamika Royal. I'm learning Tamika Royal. I just found out who Tamika Royal was about 5 or 6 years ago. That's a whole nother story for a whole nother day. However, so she grew up with the myth. And then I had to think about it. That means everybody, of course I grew up with the myth. I just couldn't remember it because my child abuse took my memory. So then I had to start thinking about some relative questions about a lot of things. I had to go back in order to go forward. So I knew that I had this romance of a mother, and maybe that romance of a mother was Claire Huxtable. And maybe I applied that to my real mother. Which is okay because it gave her grace with me. And because it took away my memory because I replaced them with whatever I wanted to see. And that's manifestation. And that's another story for another day. But I want you to know just how real that is. That your mother could actually be manifesting things over your life that you probably need to step in. You need to step into your own story and start to live it. Because if you don't step into your story, somebody's taking you someplace. And again, remember in the beginning of this story, I said, if you don't take a hold of your consciousness, somebody else will. Somebody will pick that thing up and go somewhere with it. Hey, I found the consciousness. Okay, what should I do with it? I don't know. Put it in your pocket. Take it with you. And that probably wasn't funny at all. But the premise of this story, of that joke, is whatever you thought about it, if it was funny or not, if you don't wake up and take a hold of your mind, everything is about mind. It's not about anything else. Everything else here is just material. It's particle. It means nothing. It's actually nothing. Now, when I say nothing, I'm meaning that everything that it is what you bring to it. Like this piece of paper was nothing until I brought the words to it. And now this piece of paper is a blog about mothers. I just brought it to life. If you don't remain faithful to your truth, it has restricting ramifications to where you're going in your own life. Remember that. If you don't stay diligent to finding and standing and walking in your own truth, it has restrictive ramifications to your own life, to your own story. And I mean restrictive, meaning that you can only move within the parameters of this story, because remember, it's a myth. So the freedom is gone. You can't apply your own creativity. You can't apply your own logic, because you're in a myth. You're in somebody else's story. So I thought that I would start to get out of my mother's story and start to hear my own voice. And then that's when I started to find out things that were relative to me and also relative to my mother. Because if the myth is a myth, then everything is a myth. Breathing deeply is a pattern. And I say that to say, because you should breathe deeply. And I know that that seemed off topic, but when you start to live on your own truth, you'll understand why I said that. When you really, and I think that that doesn't resonate to people, because when you live on truth, you may have to walk away from some people, and you may have to stand alone. And a lot of people can't, they won't. They're not strong enough. Or maybe they have a lot of strongholds. Whatever the case is, you got to break away from some things to find your own relevancy. Because if you don't break away from the myth, it has restricting ramifications. You're restricted. And so I say that to say, because spirit is so much different than religion. Spirit will answer questions for you just because you are aware. So not addressing the wounds of your past will transfer the myth to your children. You see how root work works, you know? So if you continue the myth, you continue that myth on to your other stories. And now you're in a trance. You're in a trance where sense of time and worth, it means nothing. Because now your worth and your time means nothing anymore. Because you're restricted and you're not going anywhere. You're in a myth. You want to know why Hollywood keeps making the same stories over and over again? Because they're in a trance. They keep making the same stories over and over again because they're in a myth. Most of those stories have Caucasian people being this, that, or the other thing. These are myths. This is why. This is the reason why you keep getting the same movies over and over and over. They want to keep you in the same trance. RoboCop coming out again. Same white man or different white man look the same as the last white man. I'm not sure. You got to stay in this trance. And everything that comes here, every living creature that comes here gets put in a trance. You put them in the school system to tell you that Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean blue in 1892 or 1842. Which one of those twos? But these are lies. 1892. But these are lies. But I gotta get the new souls into the trance. You see how if you don't get off of the myth, and you see how this story is relative to everything? Not just the mama story, but to every story. The reason why I started off with mama is because mama is in a trance herself. She can't help it but to put you in one. Somebody's got to wake up. So, not addressing the myth keeps you in the trance. Remember that. Freedom is wrapped up in truth, and it has wings, because you can fly above all these things. So, I thought that I wanted to share that with myself. You know, this is my little blog thing that I do for me, you know, for my own. And the last time I checked, I hadn't been on here for a while, but I wanted to just start giving some relative information to my story, because I've lost a lot of it in a myth. But regaining the story is eye-opening. So my blog is called Mother's Eye. And Mother's Eye is eye-opening. Now, remember, many of us daughters are raised on the myths of our mothers. When we find out certain things about our mother, we just like... I am a fan of Raising Cain, the Stars network. 50 Cent, I just love you. If you are out there anywhere, who 50. I don't even know what that was, but 50. And the reason why I love him, outside of him being a very handsome guy, is the fact that 50 is a prophet. Not that he doesn't know it, but the stories that he tells are so relevant. Now, the one that's in Raising Cain really about the mother. How Canaan got to who he is because of who she is. Now, we haven't started to talk about the father myth. That's another story for another day. Now, you got to remember that we are in a myth already. This is, once you start unraveling one myth, you start to see all things. And it really is the law of one. How you can apply all wisdom comes through many doors, but it really can be applied to all things. It's relevant. Now, unraveling the romance of mother starts to open many doors. If your mind is willing to open doors and shut doors, you have to shut doors too. Because when you start to unravel myth, you have to shut the doors on the people whose mind is still in the myth. Because you can't coexist together. Birds of a feather, they flock together. So if you're going toward truth and they're living in the myth, you can't flock with them. You have to close the doors on the people who are living in the myth. And you have to open doors to the truth. Now, a lot of people are ready to do that, to open and shut some doors. Nevertheless, and often so, it must be done if you're serious about your path. Remember, if you continue the myth, it has restricting ramifications. But if you can control yourself and discipline yourself to move into truth, it actually has freedom. It has wings. You fly. There is no restriction, because you start to manifest your own destiny. Manifestation lives within you. But if you don't get off the myth, you're restricted. And if you don't start closing doors to people who are living on a myth, it will have ramifications to your story. So I wanted to start to think logically. You know, logical thinking is really it's a study. You know, to think logically is the study of truth. A lot of things here on this planet, they call it the study of. And that's only because you study something that you want to know more about. And when you study more about it, you can learn how to take it away or give it, or take it away or give it. I take it away. I think that's something in, you know, the good Lord give it, the good Lord take it away, you know. So if they can take away your ration, they can take away your logic, they can take away your mind, they can take away your thinking. They can make you think that things make sense when they don't make sense. You know, formal logic gives you the first order of things. I'll go back to Christopher Columbus sailing the ocean blue in 1842. I'll go back to that because that is not the first logic and order of things. That did not happen to where he discovered. But the first logic of things is what you start to have to unravel. And with formal logic, you start to understand that mathematics has a formal place in this realm. It's rational. Mathematics is rational. You have equations. Mathematics is rational. So you start to think and you start to understand that logic studies of mathematics and characters and characteristics and formal languages things start to make chronological sense. That means chronological. Anytime you use the word chronological, that means time. The first order of things. The law of one. So I just wanted to put out some things about that we went somewhere completely different because this conversation was about mother, but I just wanted to just go a little deeper because meaning and knowledge are relative. What you mean and the knowledge that you're seeking and your understanding is very relative. So yeah, the blog is on my website, www.25thdynasty.com, and it is about mother. The Mother's Eye is the blog's name, and Mother's Eye is very eye-opening, you know. But once your eyes are open, what are you going to do with what you see? Remember, living in the myth has restricting ramifications to your own story. It's not until you get out of the myth that you can understand that freedom has wings. And so do you. Meaning that you can start to create and manifest whatever you see, whatever is in your story. So thank you for making some time for me today, and I definitely appreciate it. Thank you.